The rain had a way of making everything look broken. Sarah pressed her forehead against the cold window of the Greyhound bus, watching the gray world blur past, and wondered if she'd ever feel whole again. 3 months since the diagnosis. 2 months since she'd lost her job. 4 weeks since she'd stopped being able to afford her apartment. The numbers kept adding up, but her life kept subtracting. At 42 years old, she was heading to her sister's house in Michigan with nothing but a duffel bag and a heart so heavy it felt like it might sink right through the floor of this bus. She didn't want pity. She'd never wanted pity. But sitting there, watching strangers live their lives through rain-streaked glass, she couldn't help feeling like the universe had forgotten her name. The bus lurched to a stop at a small station in Ohio, one of those towns that seemed to exist only so travelers could use the bathroom and grab stale coffee. Sarah didn't move. She had no money for coffee anyway. But then the woman across the aisle stood up, adjusted her bright yellow raincoat, and turned to Sarah with the kind of smile that seemed to know things. "You getting off, honey?" the woman asked. She was older, maybe 70, with silver hair pulled back in a neat bun and eyes that crinkled at the corners like well-loved paper. "No, ma'am. Just passing through." The woman studied her for a moment, really looked at her. In that way, most people had forgotten how to do. Then she reached into her oversized purse and pulled out a brown paper bag. "I packed too much lunch. You'd be doing me a favor taking this sandwich off my hands. Doctor says I need to watch my portions." She winked, but Sarah saw the lie in her kindness. "I couldn't." "Of course you could. It's turkey and Swiss. Nothing fancy, but it's made with care." The woman placed the bag on the empty seat beside Sarah and patted her hand once, gently, before turning toward the exit. At the last moment, she looked back. "Sometimes we're angels to each other without even knowing it. You remember that?" Then she was gone, yellow raincoat disappearing into the gray afternoon, and Sarah was left holding a paper bag that felt impossibly heavy with something she'd almost forgotten existed. Hope, maybe? Or just the simple reminder that she was still visible to someone. The sandwich was gone by Indianapolis. The memory of the woman's kindness carried her to Chicago, but it was in Chicago, during a 3-hour layover, that everything changed. Sarah found a corner in the station where she could sit against the wall, with her duffel bag as a pillow. She wasn't the only one who'd turned the station into a temporary home. She could see others scattered around like forgotten luggage, people whose stories had taken turns they hadn't planned for. The exhaustion was finally pulling her under when she heard the crying. A little girl, maybe 6 years old, stood near the ticket counter in a bright pink jacket, tears streaming down her brown cheeks. She clutched a stuffed rabbit to her chest and kept calling out, "Mama! Mama!" in a voice that was breaking with panic. Sarah pushed herself to her feet. Every muscle ached. Her head throbbed. The last thing she needed was to get involved in someone else's crisis when her own was drowning her. But that voice, that scared, desperate voice, pulled her forward like an invisible rope. "Hey, sweetheart," Sarah said, kneeling down to the girl's level. "My name's Sarah. Can you tell me your name?" "Maya," the girl hiccuped. "I can't find my mama. We were getting snacks and I saw the big dog outside and I went to look and now I can't find her and—" The words tumbled out in a rush of terror. "Okay, Maya, it's okay. We're going to find your mama. I promise." Sarah took the girl's hand and led her to the security desk. Her own problems momentarily forgotten in the face of this child's fear. The next 40 minutes were chaos. Station security, announcements over the PA system. Maya's mother, a young woman named Patricia, finally found running from the other end of the station, her face streaked with tears, her voice hoarse from screaming her daughter's name. The reunion was the kind that made hardened travelers stop and stare, the kind that reminded everyone what really mattered. Patricia hugged Sarah so hard she couldn't breathe. "Thank you." "Oh my God, thank you. I thought I couldn't—" She couldn't finish the sentences. Could only hold her daughter and cry. "Anyone would have done the same," Sarah said quietly, trying to extract herself to fade back into her corner of invisibility. But Patricia wasn't letting go. "Please let me buy you dinner, or give you something. I need to—" "You don't need to do anything. Just hold her tight." Sarah managed a smile. "I'm just glad she's safe." She turned to leave, but Maya's small voice stopped her. Wait, you can have Mr. Floppy. He helps when you're scared. Sarah looked down at the stuffed rabbit being thrust toward her, its fur worn soft from years of love. Oh, honey, I can't take your rabbit. He helps, Maya insisted with the absolute certainty of children. You look like you need help, too. Sarah's throat tightened. Patricia's eyes met hers, and in that moment, one mother to another woman who'd never had the chance, something passed between them. Understanding, recognition, of pain that didn't need words. Then I'll borrow him, Sarah said, accepting the rabbit. Just until I get where I'm going. Then I'll send him back to you. Deal? Deal, Maya said, her smile returning like sunshine after a storm. Patricia pressed something into Sarah's hand before she could protest. For sending Mr. Floppy home, she said, and for being there when I couldn't be. Sarah looked down at the folded bills. $50! It felt like a fortune and an impossibility all at once. I really can't. Please, Patricia whispered. Let me give you what that woman on your bus gave you. Pass it forward. That's how this works, isn't it? Sarah's eyes widened. How did you... Patricia just smiled. You had mustard on your collar. Turkey and Swiss, right? Then she hugged Sarah once more, whispered thank you against her ear, and disappeared into the crowd with Maya's hand in hers. Sarah stood there in the middle of the Chicago bus station, clutching a worn stuffed rabbit and $50. And for the first time in months, she started to cry. Not from sadness this time. From something else. Something that felt dangerously close to healing. The final leg of the journey to Michigan, passed in a haze of exhaustion and unexpected peace. Sarah dozed with Mr. Floppy tucked under her arm, and when she woke, she used $15 of Patricia's. Money to buy food and leave $10 tucked into the seat pocket. For whoever sat there next. The woman with the yellow raincoat had been right. They were angels to each other, passing grace forward like a secret, sacred thing. Her sister Jennifer was waiting at the station in Grand Rapids. And when Sarah stepped off that bus, Jen didn't ask questions. She just opened her arms and held Sarah while she fell apart and came back together again, right there on the platform. Over the following weeks, as Sarah began the slow work of rebuilding, she kept Mr. Floppy on the nightstand Jennifer had set up in the spare room. The rabbit became her talisman, her reminder. She found work at a local diner. She started going to free support groups at the library. She began to believe in next weeks and next months again, even if next year still felt too ambitious. 3 months after arriving in Michigan, Sarah carefully wrapped Mr. Floppy in tissue paper, along with a letter she'd written to Maya and a $50 bill she'd saved from her paychecks. She'd found Patricia's address through the phone number tucked into the money that day in Chicago. The letter was simple. Thank you for reminding me that kindness is real, that people still see each other, that we're all in this together even when we feel most alone. Mr. Floppy helped. Here he is going home. And here's the $50 you gave me. Coming back because I don't need it anymore. But I hope you'll give it to someone who does. Someone like the woman with the yellow raincoat. Someone like you. Someone like me. Pass it forward. That's how this works. 6 weeks later, Sarah received a package. Inside was a photograph of Maya hugging Mr. Floppy, a crayon drawing of a woman with dark hair, labeled My Angel Sarah, and a note from Patricia that said only, It's traveling. The $50. The kindness. It's out there multiplying. Because of you? Sarah taped Maya's drawing to her bathroom mirror, where she'd see it every morning. And every morning, as she got ready for her shift at the diner, serving coffee and scrambled eggs to strangers who were just passing through, she'd smile at that crayon angel and remember, we save each other. In bus stations and diners, in moments of fear and acts of giving, in turkey sandwiches and worn stuffed rabbits. We save each other again and again. In the small, holy ways that don't make headlines but remake the world. One person at a time. One act of seeing, of caring, of choosing to be present in someone else's darkest hour. Sarah had been so sure she was alone. She'd been wrong. None of us are alone. Not really. Not as long as we keep choosing each other. Keep passing forward the grace we've been given. Keep being the angels we all need sometimes. The rain still came. Life still hurt. But Sarah wasn't broken anymore. She'd been carefully, tenderly put back together by the hands of strangers who became something more. Who became proof that the best of humanity lives in the smallest moments, waiting to be noticed, to be honored, to be passed along like light in the darkness. And isn't that the whole point? Isn't that everything?